are the human experience, with our flaws, our passions, our triggers, our inspirations, and our imprints. If we could see behind everyone's story, then perhaps what we would have is deep compassion. In this podcast, I get the chance to explore these stories from some truly fascinating people in some honest and heartwarming conversations. And best of all, I get to share these discussions with you. I'm Lael Stone, and this is Humans Being. Welcome to Humans Being. I'm Lael Stone. It's a pleasure to have you with me today. So usually I start each episode with my humanness, what's been going on for me. But this episode's actually going to be all about my humanness, because today I am joined by two of my beautiful, extraordinary children who are here to have a conversation with me. And I feel like this may be beautifully exposing of me and my humanness, as we're going to talk about parenting, being raised in the way that we have, and also just how they view the world. And there's a good reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because for anybody who's a parent these days, more than likely you would have been raised in this behaviorism paradigm. And, that was where we were brought up in environments where we were told we must be good all the time. We were punished when, we did something wrong. Often our parents, as well-meaning as they were, used punishments and rewards to get us to do what we wanted. And most adults that I work with these days were raised in that environment. And then we get to this point and they have their own children. And I think because we know a lot more now, we have a lot more information about, emotional awareness, trauma, attachment, connection, all those kind of things, people do want to do it differently. And for me and my husband, Mike, we were very, very fortunate to have 3 children and have been really conscious in wanting to raise them in a different way, where we would make it safe for their feelings, where we encourage them to take risks, make mistakes. We didn't use punishments and rewards. We wanted to connect and attach in the best ways possible. And, we now have 3 adult children and are at that other end of parenting. But one of the biggest questions that I get asked all the time is, does this work? A lot of the parents I work with have smaller children. And when they're not punishing their kids, or when they're using some of these other ways to create cooperation and connection, there's often a doubt that comes up of, is this going to work? And, are my kids then going to be, successful humans in the world? Or are they going to be able to achieve? Or, what's that going to be like? Because we haven't seen that evidence. So over the last few years, I've done lots and lots of different parenting courses, and sometimes my kids have jumped in on the calls, or we've had a bit of Q&A with some of the people on my courses, and they've absolutely loved it. I think my kids have enjoyed it, but also the other parents have really loved asking them questions and just being curious around what it is to be a young adult these days, and also being raised in these environments. So that's why I wanted to do this podcast today, to create an opportunity to have a chat with 2 of my beautiful kiddos, but also just to, I think, give people who have young kids a bit of an idea of, the long game in this picture. And I often talk about parenting as a long game. We know that sometimes when we want our kids to do something, a bit of bribery might work in that moment, or, we might come down hard on them if they've done something wrong, and it might stop that behavior. But parenting is a long game. It's about the long relationship that we're creating. Now, I just want to also say at the top of this episode, this is not a, we have it perfect, I'm a perfect mother, my kids are perfect. There is no perfect. And there's a high chance that my kids may throw me under the bus in this episode. And I want them to be real, and I want them to be human, because there have been plenty of times that I have messed up. And the whole idea of this podcast actually really is just to connect, but also to, I think, help people, adults, understand, that when we are raising our kids with kindness, but loving firm boundaries, but also, doing our own inner work, then we can raise children into adults who are emotionally aware and connected, and bring that beautiful love and connection as a family still into our adult years. So that is the mission behind this. I have no idea how this is going to go. It's a bit of a vulnerable place for me to sit in, but I am so excited to have 2 of my beautiful, beautiful children with me today. Hello, darlings. So this is Indi. Indi's 22, and this is Tali, and she's 18. Oh, she's turned 18. And I also have a son, Kai, who is 25, but he is currently climbing in the Blue Mountains, living his best life. So he's not here today. So thank you, my darlings, for coming and being willing to talk. I'm wondering, just to start off, how you feeling right now being here in this environment? How you feeling?
Good. I feel like it's so weird to be in this area of your life of work because I feel like it's just mum. So it's weird being here.
Yeah,
Exciting.
it's exciting though. I feel very privileged to be able to try this out and give it a go. But yeah, it is a bit strange with it's very different to us sitting on the couch at home. It is a bit different. There's quite a few cameras and lights and all the things around. But thank you for your time and being willing to open up and share. So I guess I want to start off with talking a little bit about punishments and rewards, because we never did that in our family. Like when you guys had some big feelings or you messed up or you made a mistake, you know, we would often come in close. We would talk about what was happening. You know, our mission, or what Mike and I really tried to do, is always look behind the behaviour as to why you might have been doing something. Can you, from your point of view, I would love to hear how that was for you. You know, as little kids, even as teenagers, you both pushed the boundaries. You've both done cheeky stuff. You know, how is it from your point of view when you did mess up or when things were going on? I'd love to hear.
Do you want to I think it always came down to just love and wanting us to be safe and wanting to talk about it. Like, it would never be, go to your room, you're grounded. It would be, let's chat about it. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? What do you need? Like, what are you not getting that we can give to you? And I remember so many times I'd just be like, send me to my room. I don't want to talk about it. But you'd always create that space to go, no, we're going to hold this for you and chat about it. And it always left me thinking about my decisions and knowing that you guys were there to support me and love on me. So I think it was a really positive thing to talk about it and know that I have that support. And I
agree. I think that it was fascinating growing up, and I think a lot of times you're right. There was parts of me that wanted to just go, no, I just want to be in trouble. Send me to my room. I want to get grounded. And I think the reason that was big for me was because it was confronting to, you know, think about what had happened. So it was always the, you know, what's behind the behavior and why did you feel the need to do this, as opposed to you've done it, you're in trouble. And I think there were times, especially as a young teenager, where I didn't want to confront that because then I'd have to think about what was going on. But really in the long game, and where I'm at now, I'm so grateful that is how that all played out, because it has allowed me to take a step back after something went down and go, okay, what would I do differently? And what have I learned from this? As opposed to, you know, being fearful to muck up again, because there was always that safety of being able to know that we could come to you guys and there wouldn't be judgment. It wouldn't be this scary thing. It would be, let's talk it through. And how are you feeling about that? So I think there was this openness of being able to, mess up as we should as young people, because that's how we learn and grow. But knowing that it wasn't going to be this big, scary thing when something did go wrong.
Because it also created then space for us to come to you when things were wrong, and gave us room to reflect on it and then be like, okay, well, what did I learn from that? Like, you would always say to us, what did you learn from this situation? Like, it was always about, you know, this is just an experience that you need to have, or a lesson that you need to learn, and what would you do in the future? You would always ask us that. If you could redo that, what would you do differently?
I think the big thing is we really wanted you to take accountability for why, especially in those teen years. Like, you know, and Dad and I would say to you all the time, like, we made plenty of mistakes. We messed up. And we almost said to you, you're going to make mistakes. Like, do it. That's how you grow and how you learn. But we want you to know that we are a really safe place to come to if those things go on. Can you think about being little and perhaps when you might have picked fights with each other, or you did something that was, you know, a bit mean to each other. Now, being adults, can you reflect back and go, there was probably just a whole lot of needs in there that weren't being met, or that you really needed that kind of loving boundary to push up against to offload those feelings?
100%. I think especially when you came along, I was like, what is this? Like,
I remember you talking anymore. Yeah, I remember you talking about that. You said, we were talking about this not long ago, and you were like, I hated her when she came along, didn't you?
But I mean, I think it was just that I felt
as though I was being replaced, or that there was this, the light wasn't on me anymore, which is hilarious because I'm sure Kai felt like that when I came along as well. But I think that's just siblings, and that's how that works.
It's also hard when you're younger.
Yeah, I didn't understand.
There's really a stranger joining the house.
Yes, and really now I am beyond grateful. I remember saying this when Tali turned 18. I said to you and Dad, I was like, thank you, because I wouldn't want it any other way. Like, you are my best friend.
Stop it.
I remember when I don't even know what age we were, but we were having a huge argument. And it was when you started working a lot more. And I think we both really just needed that connection with you and wanted to meet with you. And I remember no one else was home. It was us three. Dad was out, Kai was out. And we got into a huge argument and you didn't know who to go to. So you were with Indi, and I remember going to the room, packing my bag up with clothes, being like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm going to leave the house.
Yeah.
Because I wanted you to follow me. I wanted you to be with me. And it was such a challenging thing to try and cater for both of us and be there for both of us. But again, it was just both of us wanted you, but it's hard because there's one of you.
And it's interesting to reflect on that now. And I think I look back to a lot of behaviour when we were younger. And at the time, it's hard to see it because you just don't know until you're little. Exactly. Whereas now I think it's been nice to be able to take a step back and go, oh my gosh, that would have been so hard for you to try and navigate, when we both had big feelings, all of us, and let alone you probably had big feelings going on too. Like,
I totally had big feelings going on. I mean, that's the tricky part of parenting, right? And I think what I talk to a lot of parents about is what I was trying to do and what Dad was trying to do with you guys was parent you in a way that we weren't parented, So even though my mum and dad beautiful, I felt very loved by them, we didn't really express feelings in those big ways. I was a very good girl, and I wanted to shift that so that you guys could be free to be who you needed to be. We wanted you to know that all your feelings were welcome. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be sad. You're not allowed to take that out on anyone, but we wanted to help you be able to feel it and process it. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Tals, but when you were little, like no, but you were like so connected to how you feel. Like as a 4 or 5-year-old, you'd walk into the room and go, I'm angry, like I need to punch something, and I'd be like, okay, let's get the anger out. Do you remember doing that? Like you were so connected with just being able to express how you felt. Like you'd come in and go, I really need to have a cry, but I mean, you guys still do that now. Like, you will come and go, I really need a cuddle. I need to have a cry, and I think that's what I love. And what I witness in all three of you is your connection to your feelings and your center of being able to tune into what is there for you.
There's no shame around it.
And it was so normalized at home that it was so safe and allowed to feel however you needed to feel, but you would always, like, you and Dad would hold that still like safe boundary of like, okay, well, if you have feelings, punch a pillow, punch the bed, don't punch anyone else though. Like, don't put anyone else at that line of how you're feeling, but how do we
encouraging it to get it out. And I think it wasn't just necessarily that it was safe to feel. You encouraged that because I think a thing that you implemented really young was, if you are feeling something, you have to feel it, and it is there for a reason, so get it out. And, I remember being younger and just, cry, let it out. And because I knew that I would feel better after that. And even now, like, I think it's an amazing lesson for when we both have big feelings to know not to try and shove that away and not to push it somewhere else. It is there for a reason, so you've got to feel it.
Yeah. And would you say you're not, I mean, there's times where we don't want to feel, right? We all know that. There's times where we're like, yeah, nah, I'm going to just binge watch something instead. But do you feel that within both of you, that inevitably you'll turn towards it and lean in because you know that you'll come out the other side?
100%. And I think it's, going through hardships and having big things go on has taught us that you need to feel, because if you do push it aside, it'll just come right back later on, and it will then present itself in a bigger, probably scarier way. Whereas, I think for you to teach us to be so in tune with our bodies and our emotions when we were so young, now I'm very grateful that we're at the point where when something does come up, my initial instinct is not to, oh, that's scary, push that away or shove it down. It's to just allow it to be there. If anything, I probably take that too seriously. When something comes up, I'm just like, no, I've just got to sit with my feelings today.
Which I think is a fear. Actually, it's beautiful you say that, Indi, because a fear I think of a lot of parents over the years is, but if I let them express all their feelings, are they going to become so indulgent in it? Are they going to just lose it every time something doesn't go the way they want to? Like, what would you say to that?
I feel like that's a you question.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what to feel.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you're a beautiful, sensitive, deeply feeling human, right? You always have been, even since when you were little. You know, you were highly sensitive to your environment. So what Kai and Tali could do sometimes was too much for you, too much capacity. And I think one of the things that I look back on that I wish I probably had a bit more understanding of, particularly when you were little, was really tuning into that sensitivity in you, because you reminded me a lot of me. Like, I was really, really shy as a kid, but as a parent, you know, sometimes we're like, I just need you to get on and do it and just do the dance class or just get into the swimming lessons, and then you're juggling all the kids. And I think one of the things that I really reflect on is I wish I had have slowed down more with you. I wish I had have been able to really tune in and know that you are highly sensitive to your environment, because that was actually one of your gifts. Like, and it is one of your gifts. Like,
I think that's the biggest thing for me has been learning that it is not a weakness, it's a strength for me. And I would rather feel everything a million times over than feel nothing at all.
Yeah.
But I think it's been a struggle over the past years, and I know it's been tricky of me trying to navigate. You know, for the longest time, I thought it was this bad thing about me that, you know, when something did feel big, I had to acknowledge it and sit with it, because I just can't move on until I have.
Yes.
And that doesn't have to mean that I'm sitting in my room for 3 days straight, I'm not doing anything. Sometimes that's at work, going outside, taking 10 minutes to just sit with myself. But I think it's been learning that I do things in my own time, and we know that. And I remember having big conversations with you about that. And when something doesn't feel right, I'm just not going to do it. Like, I mean, I think there's levels to that, obviously. There are things that you don't always want to do, but you've got to do. But I think it's more so that I will do things in my own time when I feel good and ready. And I think I've beat myself up about that sometimes in the past, but I'm learning to love that about myself instead of, you know.
Yeah, making it wrong. And you have taught me so much about that, Indy. Like, you have, because even as a little girl, if you were just like not going to do it, you just like, you're not going to do it. And it doesn't matter how much I tried to play with you or convince you, you were just like, I'm just no. And you've moved at your own pace. And, you know, me is like, okay, let's go. And you're just like, don't know, I'll sit for a bit longer. And you've really taught me to trust your timing, really taught me that you would move when you're ready, and I think that's why I reflect back and think, you know, I wish I had a little bit more slowness around you. And I was doing the best I could and, you know, all the things. But I realize now, as I know, you know, the beautiful spirit that you are, that that's probably what you needed more of. Whereas it's so interesting because every child's different. Like, Tali has this like, rah, here we go, like just
Structure,
the opposite.
get it done, hurry up.
Yeah.
I'm always pushing Indy as well. Like, if Indy's room's messy, I'm like, mate,
Don't
clean
expose
it.
me.
Like,
Yeah.
whereas you're like, nah.
But I think that's why we balance well, because you kind of bring me up to the whole, okay, let's get into it, let's do it. Whereas I allow you to be like, take a breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so funny because you will always encourage me, feel it, sit with it, have a cry, talk about it. And because we are ages, we're kind of close. So we kind of have the same social vibe going on, but also completely different. So it's so interesting what we bring out in each other.
And for the longest time, we clashed with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like when we shared a room, that was...
Sharing a room for that many years, the amount of argument we had.
How do you think I felt? I was going through puberty at that time. Like, I had my first boyfriend. It was a whole thing.
I remember the story. Indy had their first boyfriend over, and I refused to leave the room. I was like, that's my room.
She sat there, perfect, prim and proper on the edge of the bed and said, my room too. Like, I'm not leaving. And very funny. But I think it was those years that I'm so grateful we did share a room, because we would not have the relationship we do now.
Yeah.
And I remember when we first moved houses and we had our own room for the first time, it was weird. We had sleepovers every night because we were like, I'm happy to have my own space, but also like I miss you. Like it's this strange thing.
And I think that's so beautiful in families. We're all so different. You know, you have an older brother too who's also different in his own way. And as a parent, I think both Dad and I have had to learn to parent all three of you differently. Like, we've kind of come with the same values and what we wanted, but each of you has met it in different ways. And I think that's the thing about parenting. It asks you not to parent what you think your child should be, but to parent the child in front of you and to meet them where they are. And I think that's been such a gift all three of you, you know, have given to us. And there's been so much trial and error within this. Like, you know, there's plenty of times where, and I think people love to hear when I've totally messed up as a parent. I don't know if I should ask you this question of like, okay, share all the tea on when I totally stepped up. But there's been things where I've lost it because you do, you're human, and I've yelled or I've like, just been like, no. I remember one time, Tali, I don't know if you remember this, you were little and you had all these feelings going on and I was just like done. I had nothing left. Like I was just kind of like, oh my God, I just don't want you to I'm just like over it. And I remember turning to you and saying, do you want some chocolate? Like I was trying to bribe you with sugar to stop just having feelings. And you look at me and you said, I don't want sugar. I want you to listen to my feelings. And I was like, oh my God, I've created a monster. But it was so beautiful and it made me laugh so much. I was able to kind of drop into it. But I think you brought out this really be present with me because that's what we're trying to do. Yet it was confronting at times. And that's things that I say to parents all the time. We're not superhuman. There's times where I don't have capacity. There's times where I'm like, I don't want to play with you and I don't want to listen to your feelings because I've got my own stuff going on. And I think that's why we have to be so kind and compassionate to ourselves. And, there's that kind of thing they talk about in parenting. If you're getting it right 30% of the time, then you're doing well. I mean, I don't know about that. I feel like it needs to be a little bit more. But, if we're majority of the time we're turning up and you've got that story that goes, hey, they're there and they've got my back and, I feel deeply loved, then that's a good thing. But there's no perfect within it, right? I would love you both to kind of talk a little bit about making mistakes, how that was in our house. Did you feel like you couldn't make a mistake? You had to get it right? What was that like for you guys?
I think that ties into what we were talking about earlier in that there was always this baseline knowing that at the end of the day, if something was to happen, it's okay. And that it would be met with like care as opposed to what have you done and you've messed up. There was always that safety around that. But that still doesn't mean that it wasn't scary. Like I think, but that's just being a young person and doing something wrong. But I think a lot of that pressure, I guess, was more so from myself or from the other people around me. And, like we had the relationship we did, but there were still things that I'm not always going to talk to you guys about, as you also encourage. Like we have our own lives, we are our own humans. But I think in terms of mistakes, there was definitely, anytime you muck up on anything, that feels big. But if anything, I was times where I was excited to talk to you about it because I knew that you'd be able to offer me some advice or make me see it in a different light almost when there were mistakes, if that was, outside of home or other places like at school or if there was stuff with friends. It always felt very safe to come to you both and talk about that, knowing that there wouldn't be this judgment. I think that was the biggest thing. There was never any judgment.
That's so good. I'm so happy to hear that. What about for you, Tals? Is there anything there?
I agree. Yeah.
Agree. Okay. All right. So this is, I asked this question because I'm so curious to hear what you've got to say. If I was to ask you what the internal voice is inside your head, what does that sound like? So as in, what have we indoctrinated in your brains? Do you want to go? Do you want me to go?
I think there's always been like a lot of like love and positivity. I think care for others around us has always been such a big thing. I feel like we're both the type of people at social gatherings, we're always looking out for everyone. Like it's always like
we're watching,
care
observing.
for yourself and love for yourself, but for people around you as well. But then of course like the little things of taking care of your health, drinking so much water if anything's going on.
Yeah, when in doubt, drink water. Yeah. It's a coin term from you.
It is.
I agree. I think that there has been an overall love for ourselves. And I think a big thing for me in my internal voice, I think growing up was a really big thing was around food, which I've spoken to you and Dad about, that was love. And that was, connection and family was always food, but it was nourishing our body as opposed to it being this chore or this thing. Like we would always sit together and have a meal as we still do for dinner now.
I think that's my favourite part of my day when we all sit down for dinner.
Me too.
Because it's like we see each other during the day, but it's when we can all sit down.
It's one time we can take a breath and actually be present. But I think, growing up and being a young girl, being a teenager and social media and things like that, of course you think of your body and, yourself in all these different ways and there's all these expectations. But I think there was always a baseline of, our relationship with food was always very healthy because you guys implemented this. This is, this is fueling your body for you to wake up and feel good and energized in the morning. And we always looked at that as this, this like it's nourishing us, I guess. But I think that in terms of like the voice in my head, there's always going to be, oh, don't do this, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. But I think, again, it's always been this level of grace that allowing myself to feel sometimes too much. But, yeah, having that underlying, it's okay, like to make mistakes, to mess up, you know, not putting too much pressure on ourselves because we're all just learning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, that's a really important piece of, you know, there's no perfect. And I know working with a lot of adults, the internal voice is, I have to do this thing or be this thing or look this way in order to be enough. And when we strip it back, I think one of the most important things we can give children is this innate knowing that they are enough just the way they are, that their enoughness is not dependent on, you know, what they look like or the grades they get, all that kind of stuff. And I think that comes a lot through attachment and connection and all those kind of things, which is, you know, what I hope. And it also is always in the back of your head, have I drunk enough water today? Because how often do I say that to you? You're like, I've got a headache. I'm like, have you had enough water? It's like, cool. Yeah, you need okay, what, for both of you, what do you find challenging about being a young person these days? Like, what are the things that are really hard about being
Both of us took a deep breath before that.
Oh, you go first because I think you're more fresh. I mean, we're both obviously young, but you've just turned 18, so I feel like this is more relevant.
Yeah, just like society pressure, the standards and stereotypes, and with social media as well, it's so hard not to conform into and get into it. Like, even I found it really hard leaving primary school and choosing to leave high school as well. That was such a big decision for me, and intuitively I knew that it was the best decision for me to make in that moment. But the judgment of others, or, you know, you won't succeed in life if you don't finish year 12 or you don't get an ATAR. And I've said this so many times, but since leaving school and working for 2 years, I've learned so much more about myself than I ever had. But it's so challenging being a young person growing up with so many voices and people's judgments and really trying to stay true to yourself when there's all the voices around you. Like, I have, so much empathy and care for the people around me. Even just hearing like stories from friends of what they're going through or their own family life, and there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that you don't know.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest misconception, is especially in schools and young people, is the kids that are acting out are rat bags, and they're just doing this to get attention, and really there's always something going on behind. Like, you never know what's happening for a person.
I would always say that to us. Like, if I was telling you about something that had happened, you would say, no, but like, let's look behind the behaviour. Like, what do you reckon's going on for them? Because if they're acting out in that way, I'm sure there's something going on.
There's some hurt.
And there were so many times I'd be like, no, like, let me just be mad at them. Like, and you would always say, no, there's other stuff going on, and it's okay to be upset about the situation, and it's okay to be mad, but they've got their own stuff going on.
I think that was a big thing, is like being aware of that and keeping that in the back of our mind. But just to touch on what you said before, it's so hard, I think, to stay true to yourself whilst also trying to get by. Like, high school is so tricky in, you know, society telling us to do all these different things, and that we're expected to move this way, act this way, look this way. And I think a big thing for me, same with when I was leaving school, I really struggled at school because I didn't want to fit in and do the things that everyone else was doing. But also, if you didn't do that, then you would get exiled. Like, it was this really tricky in between. And I remember I showed you a video of this the other week. I remember the first day after I'd finished, I left school before I started at VCAL. And I took myself out into the city and I just put a cute outfit on. I literally just got sushi and sat in the corner somewhere at the State Library. But I just cried because it was this, oh my God, I can go do this and I don't have to think about what anyone else thinks. I can put on whatever I want to put on. I can dye my hair whatever color I want to do that. And it was this freedom to fully tap into being me and not feeling that judgment. And honestly, since I left school, I feel like I've just gone straight down that path, and I don't really think about what other people think of me anymore, because it is exhausting trying to fit into a box that society tells us we should fit into. It's just, why would I waste any more time trying to please other people when I'm the one that I should be pleasing, you know?
It's also really hard though, because everyone's trying to figure out who they are themselves. and especially in high school or even primary school as well, the arguments, the disagreements, like everyone's just trying the best that they can, and that's why people clash so much, because it's, you know, everyone's trying their best and they're pushing the boundaries in the boat to figure out who they are and where they fit in the world. So it can be so messy.
So hard. Yeah.
It's so tricky. And I really love what you tapped on there, Indy, about just really saying, how do you be true to you in when we're part of systems that want you to conform into something else? It's so hard, isn't it? I mean, and look, you know, the schooling system is a whole other beast, and serves some people really well and then doesn't for others. And, you know, like if I could have my way, we'd have a massive reform around education. But I think what you just touched on there is really powerful, is particularly in the teenage years when you're trying to figure out who you are, and yet we also have this need to belong. And so how do I be that and also stay true to me? It's one of the biggest dances that we, I think, navigate in life. And not only as a teenager, but I think into adulthood as well. We're still trying to find that place of being authentically me. And that's, I think, one of the big things in wanting to raise you guys with as much emotional intelligence as we could is mainly for that, for you to be authentically you, to stay connected to who you are. Because a lot of the adults I work with, it takes until they're in their 30s and 40s to be like, oh my God, I've conformed my whole life to fit into this box, to be good, to be this, and that's actually not who I am. And I think if we can ideally raise kids that stay connected to their spirit and who they are, then that's actually going to set you off on a path to follow what you want and do. And, you know, I will speak from the parent point of view. All three of you have challenged that. And we've raised you to do that, but each time I've still been shocked because I've been like, oh God, can't you just go to school? Can't you just fit into this thing? Because on some level, that was going to make my life easier. Yet I also, Dad and I really wanted to encourage you to be you. And so when all three of you were like, this doesn't fit me anymore, or I don't feel like that is where I need to be, or I want to do it this way, I trusted all of you to do it. But there was also these little edges that were like, oof, because I think we want the evidence. And I think sitting here now, not only with you two darlings, but, you know, seeing you all live your adult lives, I absolutely know and agree that that was the right decision for all of you to find your unique way. And that's really tricky when we have been raised in a way where we're told this is the path you should take. And that's hard. And I've talked with many parents who also struggle with that. Perhaps their kids don't fit in a system, don't belong, want to do it differently. And it's really, really tricky, you know. And I think if we had more grace around it of who is this beautiful person in front of me and what's going to help them thrive, and how do we do that? And I hope that that's what we've kind of created a bit of a foundation for you to do. We were talking just off the back of the pressure of society and stuff like that. Like, what's your take for both of you on social media? Now, I kind of feel like I dodged a bullet with both of you, just with all of you. You know, we kind of got through most of those teen years until social media became even more intense of what it is now. What's your relationship to that? How do you feel about that? Because it's a massive influence on people's lives, isn't it?
I definitely agree that we kind of have just skimmed past the intensity of it. It's just gotten really big in the past few years.
But it was still definitely
It's always
present.
been very big.
Yeah, I think that's a whole beast in itself too. I think that I'm very lucky because when that kind of started coming into play, it was very much more connection, and it was a way to connect with friends and talk. And there was obviously still yuckiness within that. Sorry. But yeah, it was always just a way to connect. I know for me, during lockdown, that was major. Let's not get too deep into that, but when you couldn't connect with anyone and you couldn't see anyone, that was such a saving grace to be able to FaceTime my friends, to message my friends, and that was the only way we could connect. But I think with that, there's so many expectations and things that are put on social media that are so damaging for young people to see, because you look at these things and these people living these kind of fake lives and you go, why don't I look like that? Or why don't I have that? And it can be so damaging for one's mental health, for their self-esteem. You know, I definitely know there were times where I'm looking at models on Instagram going, why don't I look like that? But I think, again, the way that you and Dad kind of phrase it when social media was introduced, like, and to us, I guess, I think a big thing was always a lot of conversations around if you come across something that is scary or that feels yucky, always come and talk to us about it. And I remember having conversations with you, sitting down going, I saw this and it really rubbed me the wrong way and I don't know what to do about that now. And we talked about it. And it was always this, you know, again, openness to talk about it if something was to come up that was scary. But I think, yeah, it's tricky. I have mixed emotions about it because on one hand, I think it's amazing as a way to connect and bring people together, like-minded people, create communities. But at the same time, there's a lot of damaging stuff there that is really scary that young people have their hands on. I think for me, I kind of, just missed that mark of it being really hectic, but it was definitely bigger for you and your cohort.
Well, I was talking to Dad last week about it. He was saying, oh, well, when we were younger, you just call someone's home phone up and say, oh, meet me here and see if they rock up. And I was just looking at him being like, I could never imagine myself doing that now. Like, we so take for granted what we have and communicating with people. But I remember even once I was like working full time, the only way that I could see friends and connect with them was chatting to them on the phone or, you know, let's hang out, let's do this. It was such a form of communication for me, which was amazing. But on the other side of it is when I'm even hanging out with friends or at places, everyone's on their phones.
Yes.
And it's such a challenging dance because it's like it creates connection and communication with people, but also
it's like taking over our
forget
lives.
how to communicate with one another in real life. Like sometimes I will be talking to someone and they're just so not there and they don't know how to talk to you. And it's so easy to hide behind your phone and message people things and just hide behind it or post things. It's just, it's really tricky.
Like you've said a few times before, Indy, God, I wish I could live in the 80s where it was just simpler, rode our bikes, listened to mixtapes, social media. Mixtape. I actually haven't asked you two this. Like, what do you think of here in Australia? Last year, they had a social media ban for under 16s, so then allowed you access certain social media. What's your take on that? What do you guys think about that?
I think it's a appropriate and good thing to do.
Yeah.
I am questioning how they can actually monitor it and do it because there's always a way to figure things out.
Teenagers are clever.
I think it's a good thing. I think that as a young person, I know I came across things that I definitely shouldn't have when I was younger, and that felt scary and big. And it feels like this kind of dark, scary thing. And I think as well that still leaves the opportunity of being able to still connect with people, whether that's just on messages or FaceTime or, you know, whether it's Zoom, whatever it is. There are still ways for young people to connect and interact with each other without having to be exposed to quite these adult things, I guess.
Yeah. And look, even as an adult who's 50 years of age, who knows better, I can still get sucked in to comparison, to all the things going on. I'm like, and then I have to remember, no, that's not your reality. And for you guys, where you've got your whole life in front of you and your brains are still forming, like it's pretty massive. It's a whole thing. You know, I think it is. It's the discernment. And I think what you touched on, Tiles, is it's easier for people to just numb out in their phones. And that's the biggest thing, you know, of why are we repressing, you know, because we don't often want to feel, and technology does that for us. And it's a tricky thing to regulate that within yourself, isn't it? You know, it's really hard. All three of you, so including Kai, have worked with children over different times, and you've all done beautiful work with kids, whether it's support work, whether it's motivational stuff, like, you know, taking care of children. Like, you're all so divine with little humans. What does that make you think about if you were to become parents one day, or even just working with kids? What are the values that you would want to bring to that, to whether it's your own children or just the kids that you work with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that it's been amazing working with lots of young people and, you know, touching on what we said about school before. I think because all I needed at school was someone in my corner. I've been so happy and so lucky to be able to work with young kids and be that person for them, or at least attempt to. You know, I was working in a school for a while as like an LSO, and that was so amazing because, again, I was kind of put with these kids that were known as the bad kids or the cheeky kids. And really after half an hour of talking to them, I'm like, oh my gosh, this young boy is just hurting. He's got some stuff going on for him at home and it feels really big, and no one has given him the time of day to hear him out. I think the default is to just act out. No, it's too hard, I don't want to do it. When really all it takes is someone to sit there and go, no, I hear you. Like, I'm here to help you. What can I do to make this easier for you? And I think that's been really amazing working with young people to show me that, yeah, there's always just stuff going on behind the scenes. And really, I think young kids, it's such a big, scary thing is your body's changing, your brain's changing, trying to keep up with all your other peers, and there's so much going on. And really, at the end of the day, all you need is just one person to get on your level and be like, I hear you. I think that's taught me a lot about how I would want to be with my kids as well, as you guys have raised us. Just treating them as equals as opposed to this whole authoritarian, I have power over you, I'm in charge of you. Because I think that creates this whole, my feelings aren't as important, or it's not as valid, or I can't speak up for what I want to say. So yeah, I think it's just been this big lesson of, yeah, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and really all it takes is to just take a second out of your day to really ask that question and go, what can I do for you, you know?
Yeah.
I've heard so many families of the parents saying, like, I'm the adult, you're the child, like, you've got to listen to me. And it's so interesting because it's so invalidating for the child when you're trying to raise someone that you can communicate with one another and have really open conversations, yet that fully shuts it down. And I think one thing that I would love to be mindful of when I become a parent is really listening to my child and having so much love and fun and connection. Like, working with little kids is just so cute. I love it. And they honestly are like the purest form of joy and love. And when I'm like with them, I don't think about a single thing. I remember this one child who I worked with, she had the biggest tears and the biggest feelings, and it's because she didn't know where her teddy bear was. And for me, I had so much going on at the time. And I remember just crying with her, being like, your only worry right now is about this teddy bear. And it was just the sweetest thing. And she honestly just needed me to be like, I hear you, and like, let's try and find it, or let's figure out another solution, or what do you need, or listen to her feelings. And I just think we take for granted that little bits of love and joy and listening, like just the power of listening, not having to fix, not having to change, just to listen.
And it is so crazy how, I mean, I guess for little kids, their agenda every day is just to have fun.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the time we forget that. And it's been such a joy, just like babysitting over the years, working with young kids.
But isn't that what everyone wants? Like,
I know,
everyone
100%. But I think we forget about that, and there's so many other things going on in our lives, and we're so go, 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 that's why I've loved working with kids, as I know you have too, because it gives you that minute to just remind you and come back to that whole, oh my gosh, how good is it to giggle? Or let's make a dance routine. Let's do these things that, you know, we always had so much joy doing when we were little, but it's so nice as a reminder to bring you back to that and just go, it's not that serious. Just run through the sprinklers in the garden, like do something silly.
I think what you both saying, which is so beautiful, is they're very in the moment, and we're often not, because we're thinking about the future, we're thinking about what this should be, we're sitting thinking about the past or what we've done wrong. What children do is they bring us into the present moment if we can allow ourselves to be there, which is not always easy when you're a parent because you're juggling all the other things. I mean, I love so much about what you're both saying, and I'm very aware that it could sound like to people that, you know, it was just all love and joy in our family growing up. It was not. No, it wasn't. Like, there were hard times, there were arguments, there were big feelings, there were times when Dad and I were not, you know, being really the example of what we wanted to be. And we also had boundaries for you guys. Like, I think parenting in this way, where we're not using punishments and rewards and we're really about connection, doesn't mean that we don't say no. Like, we said no plenty of times. We'd set boundaries with things, but then I hope what we would do is we would say no to something, but we would be there to hear how that felt for you. So, you know, it was like, no, you can't go to that party, or no, you can't do that. And we would, you know, we'd always make sure that you would repair if you've messed up. There was accountability. It's a big thing, but it's very different to punishment.
I think also with the no was always backed up as a why.
Why?
There was always a, hey, we don't think it's a good idea for you to do this because of this and this and this. It wasn't just a flat out, no, you listen to me. It was always an open conversation about it, which then led to us being able to talk about how that felt for us too.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing, sorry to cut you off, in our family is we have arguments, we have little things that happen, so does everyone. But I find, especially with us, it's the repair and the communication afterwards.
Yeah.
It might take 20 minutes a day, like a few days, but it's
Mhm.
always the come back and
Mhm.
reflect on, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, or it was actually about this for me or that.
Mhm.
So it's no one's perfect and we have all of our flaws and arguments, but I think it was always you take accountability, you reflect, you apologize or say that didn't feel good for me, or this is why. It's like just about having a conversation about it.
Yeah. And I think too, look, I know in the teenage years you guys all lied. Should we go through the times where you pulled Swifties? No, you all do. It's part of being a teenager, right? You see what you can get away with, and I think the big thing is Dad and I would catch certain things, and we knew when it was really important that when push comes to shove, we were going to be there and we were dealing with what was going on. And there were little bits and pieces you were doing of pushing boundaries and stuff. So that's just to, tell parents. It's not you have to still find your edges and what you needed to do. But I think what I really wanted to instill in you is that when things were not okay, where you're at a party and it was dodgy, like when you rang me at 4 a.m. and said to me, do you remember? You remember? I get the phone rings at 4:30 and Tali just goes, Mum, please be the parent that you say you are. What's the first thing you said to me? And I was like, yes, where are you? And you're like, we're at a place. It's really sketchy. Can you come get us? That's what we wanted.
Because I
It was
remember
always
all
safety.
my friends, we were in this situation, and I remember my intuition the start of the night was like, don't do it. But it was, everyone else was. So it
fear
was
of
like,
missing out.
go
Yeah.
do it. And then I was there and I was like, I know I shouldn't be here.
Mm.
And all of them were like, let's go. How do we leave? And I thought about it and I was like, my mum will come pick us up. Let's do it. So I remember calling you and it was the no questions asked. It was just, are you safe? Is there anything you need? Like, you came back and made us toasted sandwiches and set up beds for all of me and my friends. And they were so appreciative of just having someone who was just purely caring about their safety and just wanted to love on them.
Yeah. And that was a huge thing that I'm so grateful for growing up, was that we had that, but that we could offer that to our friends. Our house was always safe for anyone to rock up, however you rock up, whatever was going on for you. I remember there were times you guys picked up my friends from parties that I wasn't even at. But it was this, it was always this, before the lesson, before the talk about it, it was the safety. And that was all that it was, that no matter what state you're in, whatever's happening, whatever's going down, first and foremost, you and Dad want us to be safe and to make sure we're okay. So even if there were times where we'd push the boat out or things would happen, it was always knowing in the back of my head that if something was to go down, I can call you, no questions asked. And I'm so grateful for that, because I could offer that to friends as well. And it was, friends who were going through hard times or were having stuff go down at home. I could always offer that safe place to, be how you need to be. And I think that's been such an amazing thing that I'm so grateful to carry with me now. That I think it was also what you were saying earlier, is when we're out at parties or at social situations and we see someone who's by themselves and they look a little bit distressed, I'm always going to go over and make sure that they're okay.
We were speaking about this yesterday, saying we're both like the mother in that situation.
And it baffles us how people don't do that. But I think that's just been always, instilling this, first and foremost, it's safety for your body, for your mind.
And I think that's why also too, we tried to just have no topic that we couldn't talk about. And we've had heated discussions and things have been really tricky. But we wanted to go, let's talk about all the things. Let's talk about alcohol. Let's talk about drugs. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about all the things that are there, so that we know that you can come to us with that big stuff. And, again, as a parent, there were conversations I didn't want to have. Like, I was like, I don't want to talk about this. Like, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm like, I have to stretch a bit to make it safe enough for you to bring these things to us. And, that's made Dad and I grow as well. And, there was no way I was having those conversations with my parents, because it just wasn't really done at that time. And I think we wanted to just make it safe enough for you to bring whatever you needed to bring, so that we accept and love you.
And it wasn't this taboo thing that was like uncomfortable, scary to bring up, that if something was to occur. I think it was also, when we were younger and starting to do things and go to parties and stuff, it was always the conversations beforehand as well. It was the, hey, if this is going to go down, how do you think you'd navigate that situation? I remember role-playing scenarios, being like,
Do you remember the time we role played this scenario? It's like, okay, let's say you're kissing a boy, right? Do you remember this? And I'm like, and what do you do if he wants to kiss you? And you're like, well, if I want him to kiss me, I'll let him kiss me. And I'm like, great. And then I go, and what would you do if he then went to touch like your breast? And you were like, well, if I wanted him to touch my breast, that would be okay. But if I didn't, I would say, back off, buddy. I think you were like about 14 or something. And then we were doing this full role play of what would you say if you're in this situation? And what would you do if someone did this? I remember like laughing lots with it, but trying to give you language of things to say when you are in those situations to be able to go, how do I navigate this? Because also just said that to me. I didn't know how to deal with those situations as a teenager where I didn't know how to say no. And that was what was really, really tricky.
It was encouraging this, I'm strong and I can stand my ground and use my voice. And, the role playing, even though it was this giggly, fun thing, really that implemented so many things for us so that then when we were in situations, it was like, oh, no, I need to come back to this. Yeah.
I think just the more open the conversations and household was the better. Like I often tell you things and I'll say to my friends, oh yeah, I was talking to mum about this and that. And they're like, you tell her that? But I do, like, I just feel so open because it was always so normalized. And even if it was conversations you didn't want to have, it was more to inform us or give us all the information that we needed or give us the space to come to you with questions if we needed. And if I didn't ask you, I was fortunate enough to have Indi or Kai that I could go to.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks.
I know that was one of the things I always used to say to you guys. I don't care who you talk to, just talk to someone, an adult, someone who's got a bit of wisdom. You don't have to bring it to me. Go to one of your friends, go to your aunties, go to someone that holds space for you. And I love that both about you, that you've both had therapy over the years when you've needed it. You both have loved it. You're like, I would like to go each week. I'm like, it's a bit expensive. No, I love that you both have seen the value in speaking, processing, finding some places. Because I know there's times where you haven't come to me about things. And part of me is like, oh, but I'm like, actually, no. If you're going somewhere, it doesn't matter. I want you to be heard and listened to in a way that feels right for you. And I think that's really healthy to have that balance.
There was never any judgment around that either. That there were times where, there's some things you just don't want to talk to your parents about, and that's okay. And, I'm glad that I could be that for Tali as well. Not that I'm that much older than you, but if there is something going on, you can come talk to me. And I've had conversations with you guys where you're like, how's Tali? What's going on? I'm like, she's spoken with me. It's okay.
Yeah.
I even remember calling your friends sometimes, going and chatting to them when I just need to talk to someone that's not you, and it's not that I don't feel like I can. Yeah, shout out Rachel, we love you. Not that I can't talk to you, but sometimes you just want to talk to someone else, and that's okay. And I remember just going over to her house and crying and being like, just everything feels big, and I just need someone different to listen. Yeah,
that's a good thing. We need the aunties, don't we? We need the aunties and the uncles. I love your friends so much. I love the people that you guys all hang out with. And what'd you say? But there's not a but. No, but what but? I'm curious around the
But who's your favorite?
No. I'm not gonna say, oh no, I love all your friends. I love them.
We know.
I'm curious about what you hear from them around what they wish looked different in their families, or what even you guys wish looked different in your family. Like, again, this is utopia. It's not, right? There's messiness. Well, of two parts. Firstly, what is it that you hear often from your peers around about what they wish looked a bit different from what they kind of would have gotten from their parents maybe, or that family? And the second part is, what you guys might have wished in your upbringing looked different. I mean, I know if I asked Kai that question, he would say we should have gone camping more because we never went camping. Mike and I don't camp. And he would live in the bush if he could. So I reckon that's probably one of his. But anyway, okay. That's a two-parter, that question.
Yeah. I think growing up, being a teenager, definitely what I noticed the most was the friends that were getting punished the most or in trouble the most were the ones that would push the boat out the most. So it was the more that they'd push up against their parents that they would then act out and they'd sneak out and they'd do all these different things. When I didn't feel the need to do those things. I mean, I still pushed the boat out, still did things, but I was honest with you about it for the most part. Emphasis on that. I think it was the more that there was this, you're grounded, you stay here, don't do anything, you're in trouble, the more they'd be like, well, screw you.
And whether they could say it or not that they were doing that, it's definitely interesting to observe. I fully agree with that. The friends who push it the hardest are the ones who have a really challenging relationship with their parents and can't talk to them or don't have anyone to ask questions to or have that support or even hug their parents. Like every family is different. But it's so interesting observing that. And the people who just want to be seen or want to be heard or want to just connect with their family, or the parents are the ones who are always getting in trouble or being naughty, or
which ties back to the people at school again. The bad kids are actually not bad. They are just acting out in a way of not knowing what's hurting. And they're hurting, yeah. And I think the biggest thing overall I've seen with friends over the years has been just the openness that wasn't had at home. You know, we have so many people come to our house and just like, I have friends who literally come over just to sit upstairs and talk to dad. And I'm like, my turn, like, can we hang out downstairs? But I think it was, the openness and the willingness for, I think it's the willingness for conversations and to have those hard conversations. Because I can see from the parents' point of view that it would be tricky, especially when you haven't done this before, to then start implementing something new would be a whole new world. But I think it was, just the openness of and the willingness to understand and to hear them out. I think it also makes sense because it is a different world now. And, you know, we've often had conversations where you're like, I don't understand that because we didn't have that. Or it looks different now. But I think it's the willingness to sit down and be like, tell me all the slang words. What does this mean? What does that mean? And trying to connect and find that common ground. But I guess in terms of growing up for us, I don't know. I think, do you want to take that?
I don't know. I'm
it's
trying
tricky.
to think of growing up.
Is it bad that I just don't really have an answer? Like,
I mean, that makes me look really good.
I know, but then I'm trying to think.
Amazing. But
I guess, again, obviously there was, I mean, I'm so grateful for the way that we were raised and everything that we've had. We are so, so lucky to have lived the way we have. But I think with that, of course, it was not perfect. I think I had a lot of friends. I remember having friends who, there would be times I'd be like, I don't know, arguing with dad or Kai or whatever it was. And friends would just straight up be like, well, you don't have any right to talk about that because your life is perfect or your family's perfect. I'm like, that's, I'm so grateful for you guys and what we have, but that is not the case. You know, there were times we all butted heads, that we didn't get along, that stuff was really big emotions, big feelings. But I think, again, it was just over the years, I think we've all gotten so much better at recognizing our own feelings and being able to take a step back and be like, okay, I'm heightened right now. Let me exit this situation and revisit it later. But I think the only thing I guess I'd change more so was, I mean, it's hard because I look back on it and I'm like, I was being a little brat or I was doing this, doing that. But you're meant to do that. Like, you're a teenager and you're just learning. And I think really it's been a journey of us all trying to understand how we work cohesively together. But all the mistakes and the things that happened, I wouldn't change because it has led us to where we are now, I guess.
I was just going to say it's like living in a share house. Like everyone's just trying to figure out what they like, what they're doing, how to not step on this person's toes. And lots of people have said that to me as well, like, my situation's worse than yours at home, like you've got nothing. But I'm like, I'm sure whatever you're going through is really challenging. But I've had a great upbringing, as you said, but we're all human. Like,
our feelings are still valid. Yeah.
Totally. That's so true, isn't it? It's real and it's relative for where you're at the time. And, I think, I think probably what I see too is, particularly these last few years as I have worked a lot more, like I was really a stay-at-home mum with you guys for a long time and could be really present. And I really want to just frame this too for people listening. We decided in the early years that Dad would work and I would be with you guys. So I really wanted to be as present as possible. And, there were times where I was like, I am over this. Like, it was hard. We also struggled a lot financially because we were one income, but it felt really important to do that. So I really just want to flag that I think a lot of the foundation stuff that we did is because I could be at home with you guys. And I know not everybody has that opportunity. So I just really want to speak that to parents. I also really just want to say that, of course, I say this all the time, we're all doing the best we can with the tools we've got. And one of the big things with my work is helping adults unpack their stories so they can turn up and be the parent they want to be. And it's not easy. It takes work. And I think the things that I've been called out on from you guys sometimes is about being present. Like, it's easy for me to work and get really busy with work, particularly now that you're older. I reckon, Talsy, when you hit about 15, I was like, right, I'm done now. I'm done parenting. I can just go and do it. And you were like, no, excuse me, I still need you. And I'm like, really? And you've called me out on it quite a few times, which is good. I want you to do that because I'm like, actually, you still I know you guys still need me. I mean, you're your own beautiful humans.
Me, we don't still need.
I know, but that's been sometimes challenging too, so I think for me, what I love about this conversation is just, it's messy being a family. It's messy being a human. And and I guess the through message I'm hearing through so much of what you guys are saying is, but we keep coming back together, and we keep coming back to repair, and we keep coming back to having these conversations, which I think is what helps us thrive no matter what's thrown with us. And I do hope that people can hear that as an invitation to have that as a bit of their North Star, particularly if you've got little kids. And I say to parents all the time, who are the young adults you want to see in your children? What qualities do you want them to have? What values do you want them to stand for? Well, this is the foundation of what we're building. And it's hard. It's definitely one of the hardest job I've ever done is parenting, without doubt. Yet it's also been the absolute richest for me, because look at you guys. Look at, I just think I just feel very, very, very blessed.
Can I say one thing on that?
Yeah.
I think, the biggest thing has been, you're so right, it is messy and it is tricky, but we come back together. I think it's facing the hard and it's feeling the hurt. There are so many times where I have not wanted to have conversations because I feel so big and it feels really hard. But, you sit in that and you face it, and then you overcome that. And that is what has brought us together. It is because we aren't sweeping things under the rug. We are facing it, which is so tricky and confronting. But I think it's the willingness that you and Dad have had of creating that space to sit in the hard and have the tricky conversations.
And I think that's taught us as well, having more conversations has allowed us to communicate better. And I don't know if this is just for me, but within friends or work or whatever, I would always rather have a conversation about what's going on rather than leave it. I'm like, tell me everything.
When you talk it through. Yeah.
So I think it was also really important for us to just have those little life skills of whether it's taking accountability, whether it's repairing, whether it's listening to someone and what's going on for them. It was always have the conversation.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, my last question, which is a big one.
I'm talking too much.
No. This is beautiful.
We talk like you. We talk with our hands.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
The hand gestures.
I did make
you. Yeah, well.
It's my favorite line to say all the time whenever you're doing something. I'm like, I made you. And you're like, shut up, Mum. Okay, so a big question. And what do you wish looked different in this world? You could choose one or two things. I mean, there's a lot that we would change, but what do you think?
I think what I was speaking about earlier about the little things is so important. The simplest things, like I get that there's money stuff, work stuff, being a parent, family. Everyone has challenges and things that go on in their life, but I just feel like everyone forgets and dismisses the love and the joy and the simplest, having a conversation with someone or connecting, not hiding behind your phone, not getting caught up in this and that. I feel like that's been the most challenging thing for me, to be in the moment and be present. And I think it's like a lost art and a lost thing to communicate with people in real life and have conversations or get to know someone, or just put your phone away or go for a walk. Like, I just think it's, touch some grass, the littlest things of just more love and more empathy for people, more care. I think it's so easy to just ignore what's going on behind closed doors, or, not read into people's stories, or just ignore it because everyone's got their own stuff going on. But I think there's always stuff behind their behaviour, and just having love for people. It's a really hard time that everyone's navigating at the moment. So I think the more love and care for people.
Well said, Tals. I totally agree. And I think just touching on that, the biggest thing for me, I think, is the empathy for other people, but for yourself. I think that's been such a big lesson for me over the past few years, in giving myself that grace to just sit and feel, as we were talking about earlier. But I think, it's really one sentence can make or break someone's day. And it's, being aware of, how much our words mean to each other, and looking out for one another, because that's all we can do here. And everyone is doing the best they know how. And I think it's just, looking after yourself, but looking after the people and the community around you, and, facing those hard things. And really, I know, even at work, my favorite thing about working is being able to actually have a genuine conversation with someone and just ask how someone's day is going. And it's that one comment, it's that one conversation that really connects everyone. I think exactly what you said. It's just the taking a second out of your day to really just look at another person and be like, how are you doing? but also doing that for yourself as well and turning that inwards. I think we need to all give ourselves so much more grace that we are doing the best we know how, and everyone is just trying at the end of the day. And we're all learning and doing what we can.
It's everyone's first time living.
Yes.
Love that.
It's true. Even for parents, I saw this thing and it was like, my mum's first time doing this as life and living. Like, it's so...
We forget because we are so wrapped up in our own story that I forget this is your first time on this planet too, as for you. And that we are all just trying
navigating
to get by.
and figuring it out. And it's forgotten that, everyone's just trying.
It's so beautiful, darlings. Well, okay. Before I kind of really finish up, usually at this point in the podcast, I say, so would you like to share with your audience what you've got going on? Is there anything you'd like to promote? Is there anything you'd like to promote, my darlings?
Whoa.
What have we got going on?
No, well, Tali's going overseas soon. She's got she's
to Europe. For the Euro summer.
Yeah. She's going to go find her Italian man of her dream.
Yeah. You've got your vision.
If anyone wants to give me some money towards my Europe fund, I'll let you know.
Start a GoFundMe page. Yeah. Anyway, I usually say that if you want to plug something, but I don't think there's anything you want to plug. Just being human. I love that.
Working. My thing. I don't really. Have any.
Well, what I will say to round off this is just, this conversation just does all the things for my mama heart, because I just look at you both and I'm so proud of you. I feel like my best work in the world has been you guys. I've done a lot of amazing things, but through all the hard and through all the joy and the love, like, it has been the biggest privilege of my life raising you guys. And I'm just so in awe of who you are. I can't wait to see what else you're going to do in the world. And I love, which was my mission, that you're both connected to who you are. And that's what I wish for both of you, your whole life, that you just keep being the truest, most authentic version of you. So thank you, my darlings, for coming on. I love you. Thank you for coming on and sharing and being human and just being real.
Product of your work. So you need to show it.
Oh, no pressure there. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everybody for listening. I hope you've got some beautiful little takeaways from this, particularly if your kids are little, about coming back to what is your North Star with raising your kids. And even if you do have older children, remembering that connection is always the answer. It's never too late. It's never too late for repair. It's never too late for connection, because no matter how old we are, we are all yearning and wanting that deep love and connection with the ones we love. So thank you.
Also say shout out, Dad.
Oh yeah, shout out to Mike. Yes. Well, yes, of course. Yeah, and our beautiful boy. I know. And our dog. It's the whole family. Yeah.
Family.
That would be chaos. I don't think we could do that.
You could do a family podcast.
Well, I think we can all talk a lot.
We'd be fighting over who.
Except Kai would be sitting back just listening and then drop in something. But yeah, thank you. Well, thank you, my love, for being here. I love you so much. And thank you for your beautiful wisdom and your sharing. Thank you, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope it's inspired you to go and connect with someone that you love deeply and tell them what they mean to you. Go gently and don't forget to be human. Thanks for sharing this time with me. You can find my book, Own Your Story, at bookshops or listen to the audiobook on Audible. I even read it myself. You can stay connected with Humans Being on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment, question, or contemplation. And visit my website, laelstone.com.au, where you'll find heaps of great resources and courses for you to explore. This podcast is produced by Nigel Carboon, recorded by the crew at We Make Online Videos, and our original music is created by Josh Reed. Humans Being is produced on the lands of the Bunurong and Wadawurrung people. We pay respect to their unique and diverse cultures and to elders past, present, and future. Until next time, stay connected and don't forget to be human.